This is War Map. On July 11th, 2026, Russian forces broke Ukrainian defensive line and took the settlement of Bachevsk. In the border area of the Sumy region, Russian troops are advancing amid fighting near the checkpoint north of Sopich in preparation for a subsequent attack on Bachevsk. Approximately 1,460 Ukrainian soldiers killed or wounded, 445 drones shot down, and advanced aerial targets, including cruise missiles and guided bombs, intercepted. On the North Ukrainian front, units of the North Group of Forces captured Bachevsk. The settlement is located in the Sumy region, a few kilometers from the border with the Bryansk region, and for a long time remained one of the AFU's key strongholds in the border zone. The fighting in this area was conducted by assault units of the 349th Motor Rifle Regiment, 42nd Motor Rifle Division. Currently, the soldiers are consolidating on the achieved lines, setting up positions, and preparing for possible counterattacks by Ukrainian formations. For the Ukrainian armed forces, the loss of Bachevsk is unpleasant, not because of the size of the settlement itself, but because of the change in the configuration of the border area. Russian units are gaining more advantageous positions for observation, reconnaissance, and control of the Ukrainian nearby routes. The advance in this area intensified back in late spring, after which it subsided for a while. Now, apparently, the Northerners are moving to a new stage of fighting in this direction, gradually leveling the front line in the border area. The most likely scenario remains the advance towards the Korenki, Ulanovo line, followed by clearing out existing pockets of resistance. This approach allows for a consistent elimination of AFU outposts from which the Ukrainian armed forces can conduct reconnaissance, deploy small groups, and prepare local counterattacks rather than a direct assault. However, there is no talk of a large-scale offensive in this area yet. The fighting here is more likely aimed at stretching the Ukrainian armed forces' reserves along the entire border and forcing the AFU to constantly maneuver forces between the Sumy and Kharkiv regions. When Ukrainian formations transfer reserves to one area, they inevitably expose neighboring areas. This is what units of the North Group are taking advantage of, capturing individual lines of defense faster and with fewer losses. Observation posts in border villages play a special role. They allow for reconnaissance of the terrain, control of AFU movements, and prevent the Ukrainian armed forces from suddenly accumulating forces for attacks. The capture of Bachevsk means one thing. The more such key points the AFU loses, the more difficult it is for him to maintain operational responsiveness on the borderline and to freely transfer reserves between directions. In addition, Russian forces advance towards the capital Sumy. Intense fighting is underway on the Sumy axis. The North Group of troops is advancing on several sections, pushing through wooded areas. In the area of Pisarivka, Kianitsa, assault groups of the Russian armed forces are conducting attacks both within the populated areas and further south through a large wooded area. There, the Russian army has the potential to significantly expand the area of control and create a foothold in the forest, which will allow not only to increase offensive activity, but also the number of strikes by FPV drones on AFU infrastructure in Sumy. Near Krapovshchina and Marino, positional battles continue in the forest belts. The abundance of open spaces, as well as the fact that the few forest belts are heavily scarred by shrapnel from airstrikes during the Kursk offensive, when supply routes for Ukrainian formations passed through these areas to Yunakovka, which was a major logistics hub at the time, add to the difficulties in the offensive. From the eastern flank, reports have emerged of the start of infantry fighting on the outskirts of Moritsia. There, Russian units have indeed significantly improved their tactical position, advancing to the line Hornal, Zapsilia, and occupying several forests, including the areas of Pereyizne and Demenko. From there, the offensive continues, while the neighboring Bolsheribitsia is being targeted by airstrikes. As in other areas of its zone of responsibility, the North group of troops is using the tactic of dispersing enemy reserves. Attacks on one section and then another allow for certain tactical successes. Although these are not major breakthroughs, which are hardly possible in the current conditions of warfare, it allows for a slow but steady approach to Sumy. Based on the current configuration of the front line, it is likely that in the near future, a much larger penetration of Russian units into a large wooded area between Kotenia and Mohritsia will occur, which will significantly exacerbate the problems for the Ukrainian armed forces on the entire Sumy axis and in Sumy itself. Therefore, the Ukrainian armed forces, fully aware of this threat, will try to prevent this, and therefore, the intensity of the fighting in this area will only increase. Until next update.